Welcome to the Inside Eco Devo podcast, where we highlight economic development happening in the state of Missouri. I'm your host, Eric Thurman, with the Missouri Department of Economic Development's communications team. And on this episode, we're talking about the Intern and Apprentice Recruitment Act, also known as IARA, as well as the Credential Training Program. I have two guests sitting down here with me. They're going to give us all the great info about these. First, we have Kristie Davis, the Division Director of Missouri One Start, and Shelle Jacobs, the Deputy Division Director of Missouri One Start. Guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
All righty. Kristie, you've been on before. It's been a minute, probably a year or so. You were giving us kind of the ins and outs of Missouri One Start, what you guys do, all that stuff. It's been a minute. So what's been going on with Missouri One Start? Catch us up. What's new with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of it is what we're here to talk about today, but just to kind of give a recap. So Missouri One Start, we kind of have a three-legged stool. We have recruitment assistance, where we offer branded recruitment as well as a job board. We offer our training programs. Many companies know our training programs as the customized training program, new jobs training program, and job retention training program. And our third leg to that stool is the upskill side of it. And that's where these two new programs lie: the Intern and Apprentice Recruitment Act, IARA, as you mentioned, and the Upskill Credential Training Fund, which supports the Credential Training Program.
And we'll get into these programs. I'm sure there's a lot to talk about there. One thing, maybe this is kind of a curveball question, so I apologize in advance, but it just came into my head here. We do a lot of groundbreakings, a lot of ribbon cuttings, a lot of stuff with businesses, and Missouri One Start's usually tied to a lot of those kind of businesses, training their workforce and all that stuff. Anything you can give us an update there of businesses or good wins in that department?
We've had a lot of wins over the last several years, a lot of great wins. So typically with the programs that we have, we service not only the existing companies in our state, but also those attraction projects to our state. And we operate as kind of that incentive tool to come to the state. So we've had some, expansions. Quaker Window was one of the more recent ones that we just had, where we had an opportunity to continue to support their workforce, their training, as they continue to grow with that expansion. And we've had other in Kansas City and in St. Louis and some rural areas as well. But with our training programs, the great thing about our training programs is they operate through a local education agency, either the community college or career tech center. And we tend to be with that company through the life of that company in our state. So when they come and do a ribbon cutting, that's not the last time they see us, see our partners. We're there with them continually, year after year, finding out what their new training needs might be, how they are going to expand, and how we can accommodate those changes with their company. So we've seen kind of a flurry across the state of different types of companies that we're able to serve. So excited to continue to do so.
And another great thing about Missouri One Start, is that if, when we initially come in and provide those incentives, typically a company continues to have training needs. And so we, like Kristie said, we're there with them for as long as they need us to help build up their workforce and help recruit the talent that they need.
Awesome. Okay, so let's dive into today's topic. And I throw out a question, you guys just jump in. I'm not really pinging it to one person or the other, but let's start with IARA. What is the Intern and Apprentice Recruitment Act? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the Intern and Apprentice Recruitment Act, we like acronyms, so IARA. It helps eligible Missouri companies get a tax credit against their state income tax liability for increasing the number of interns and apprentices that they hire. So with this tax credit, they could earn up to $1,500 per intern or apprentice, and $9,000 maximum a year for that company. The great thing about this program, as well as the other one we'll talk about, traditionally with our Missouri One Start training programs, there's certain industries by statute that we can serve. With this program, with IARA and Upskill Credential, we can serve any industry in the state. So some of those industries, such as healthcare, we have not been able to serve that with our programs. This gives an opportunity to really reach out to those other industries as well and to help support that need. So looking to increase the number of interns and apprentices we have, we know through a variety of different studies that when individuals come in as an intern or if they're able to apprentice, it also helps with retention. It shows that individual that the company is willing to invest in them It helps them grow. It gives them a path forward. So by implementing IARA, offering that as an opportunity to all industries in the state of Missouri, we're really hoping to increase our workforce, to retain our workforce, and to continue to grow it with the skills that they need.
And I mean, you had mentioned a few industries there. This is a new thing, expanding into some industries that we haven't covered or been able to assist before. Who is eligible for this? You said it's opened. How far open are we?
Sure. The types of companies that are eligible to apply are an individual, a firm, a partner in a firm, a corporation, partnership, shareholder in an S corporation or an LLC, all of those subject to state income tax. They also must participate in the apprentices or interns field of study. When they do hire these folks, they need to be actually doing the job that they're learning throughout their apprenticeship.
And what is needed for somebody to apply? I mean, they get somebody on, I'm sure they have to give some kind of documentation or proof of something. Run that through with us.
So eligible companies, first, they must be in good standing with the Missouri Secretary of State's office. So we ask them to upload proof of that. And they also have to participate in the E-Verify program. And we also check to make sure that they can get a no tax due certificate from the Department of Revenue stating that they don't have any tax liability, in their past. So then once they actually get approved for this program and they hire these interns and apprentices, there are various things that we require, such as payroll for these folks, because we need to determine, what their wages were when they came in. We need to determine the hours that they've worked. If we're working with interns, they have to provide a copy of their college transcripts. And all of that is part of the application that they have to submit in order to be issued those tax credits.
So we were talking about eligibility. What's the process like for somebody who's applying for this? What can they expect to go through? Because I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh man, I got to turn in all these documents. And it's, E-Verify sounds so complicated. So kind of set the stage for what they can expect.
Sure, I'll go ahead and answer that. So the one thing to remember about IARA is this is a tax credit program. So we're looking at the full tax year from January through December. So with that process, we have a 2-phase application process. So in the initial phase, we call that the preliminary phase. That will actually be from July 1 through November 15th, where companies can apply and submit in their preliminary application. The reason why we have a preliminary application is to get basic information about the company, as Shelle mentioned, but also understand the number of interns and apprentices that they've had the previous 3 years. So with this program, it's looking to increase the number of interns and apprentices that they have, and we mentioned that. But it requires us to look back 3 years and to get the average number of interns and apprentices the company had the past 3 years, and they need to exceed that average in order to get the tax credit. So during the preliminary application process, we're just gathering that basic information and allowing us to have conversation back with the company if there's documents we need or if we have questions. Then come January, from January 1 through February 15th, that's the full application, that second part of the application process, where companies will submit in the verification showing that they did hire those interns and apprentices. So if we look at tax year 2024 from January 1 through December 31st, we're looking at that whole year. How many interns and apprentices have you hired, or do you anticipate hiring during that entire tax year? July 1, the preliminary application would open up. You would tell us how many you feel would complete that intern or apprentice during that tax year. You would submit the other information that we require. And then in January, those who complete the preliminary application will be invited to then submit the full application, showing the verification that, yes, these interns and apprentices have completed their intern or apprenticeship program. You must submit in the preliminary application in order to be eligible for the full application. So this particular program also has a cap. So there's $1 million tax credit cap on the entire program. Another reason for the preliminary app is for us to get an understanding of how many tax credits are going to be requested. If we exceed $1 million in tax credits, then there's a priority process put in place, and we'll look at companies who've been in business for less than 5 years. They would get priority, and then everyone else behind that in the order that they submitted it in. And during the preliminary, we're just kind of getting an idea and understanding if we're close to that. January 1, they can start submitting the full application. Again, we'll send them notification through the portal that is used, which is submittable. They will get that notification that the full application is open. They'll submit in their information. And if we don't have more than $1 million in the tax credits, then we will just process them through. And if not, if we do have over $1 million, we'll do those with less than 5 years as a priority first.
Any kind of feedback you're getting from businesses and other industry sectors on maybe having an idea of how much of that fund or that cap would be used? Do you expect to go over it? Where do you guys think you'll fall? So
with the initial year, it takes a little bit of time to build out awareness of what the program is, to understand it. You mentioned it earlier. It sometimes can be scary because it seems like a lot of paperwork and what that looks like. So it really does take a couple of success stories to show that there is benefit in it. This first year, I don't necessarily anticipate that we will meet that $1 million tax credit mark. However, as we continue to build awareness about the program, as we build awareness with our partners and the opportunities available, I really think this is a great opportunity to leverage the great things we're doing in our state around apprenticeships right now. Governor Parson has spent his whole administration with one of his focuses being workforce. And this really just adds to some of the other benefits and opportunities that are out there, even with other programs, and how a company could leverage a variety of different opportunities. So one, I think we need to build awareness, and we need to keep pushing this opportunity and showing that it might sound like there's a lot of paperwork, but really that preliminary application gives us that opportunity to work with the company if we have questions or if there is confusion. It gives us opportunity to work through that with them before they submit the full application, and so there's not any time wasted.
And you mentioned it up top. I just want to make sure I get the figure correct. The max amount of tax credit that a business could get, did you say was $9,000?
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So $15,000 per individual for the tax year, $9,000 max for a company. And overall, the whole program was $1 million tax credit cap.
Okay. And then real quick, before we we'll come back to IARA, we'll come back and forth. Just on the interns themselves, what kind of eligibility requirements around an intern? Is it like, can high schoolers come in? Is it like college age? What's that look like?
Sure. For interns, they have to have 30 college credit hours completed. And so we're not necessarily looking at, the high school students at this point, but 30 college credit hours completed, and they have to work 60 hours per month for 2 consecutive months at the company that's sponsoring them for this, or that's applying for this tax credit.
Sounds like not only does this program benefit the company, like, hey, let's get some interns in, let's recoup a little bit of funds there, but also somebody studying like woodworking or metalworking, or I'm just throwing out some ideas there. They can get some kind of experience under their belt before they fully get into the workforce while they still get their college degree. So.
And then to piggyback on that for the apprentice, so that was the intern. On the apprentice piece of it, the company must have a registered apprenticeship program. So that's the first thing. And as far as for the apprentice themselves, they must have been in the apprentice program for at least 1 year to be eligible for it. So it's a process. But those who are in a registered apprenticeship program, they're familiar with how the U.S. Department of Labor sets up their forms and what that looks like. So they will submit in as part of this whole process. Their U.S. Department of Labor apprenticeship agreement would be part of it. And from there, we'll be able to see when that apprentice really started and what that looks like.
And this next question is just me being ignorant on the differences here. What is the difference between an intern and an apprentice?
Our apprenticeships that we are looking at here are actually registered with the U.S. Department of Labor. So they're registered apprenticeships, and so they follow a set of competencies that have been established through the Department of Labor. And an intern, on the other hand, those folks aren't necessarily registered with the Department of Labor. That is an internship that the company itself has set up. They will have also competencies that these students have to meet in order to complete their internship successfully.
Okay, so let's move on to the Credential Training Program, kind of similar to IARA. What is this? Give us the lowdown.
So the Upskill Credential Program, it assists eligible companies in upskilling their current or prospective workforce with credentials needed within their industry. This particular program, we don't necessarily have set credentials that would qualify, but we do require that these credentials be something that has been approved by an authority, a relevant authority. So, for example, AWS for welding, or some type of entity that is approving that, or maybe it's approved, the credential is approved through higher education. So it's a credential that has kind of a board or an association that has deemed it as an industry credential for this area. So there's not necessarily a list, but really, again, it's looking to make sure that the workforce that we have in the state of Missouri continues to meet the needs of the employers and giving them that skill set. And, hopefully as they increase their credentials, it's also increasing their personal wealth as an individual and able to, give back to their economy, local or statewide. But it's really to kind of increase that opportunity both for the company's growth, but as well as for the individual's personal self-wealth as well. But so this particular program, company can be reimbursed up to $2,000 per individual, $30,000 for a company in a fiscal year. So from July 1 through June 30th. This particular credential training program, though, is a competitive process. So unlike IARA, which is a tax credit program, and you just have to meet the qualifications, and there is a program cap. This particular program, the Credential Training Program, is competitive. So within statute, it outlines certain criteria that we will look at, and we will score based on that. Some of it the company can't control, and that's where they're located. So we're going to look at the economic distress in an area. We are going to look at the cost of the credential and how much the employer is contributing to the cost of that credential for the employee. We're looking at the prospective wage increase that employee will get once they obtain that credential in relationship to the cost of that actual credential. So we're using a variety of different scores that we will combine to then competitively score that company.
And one great thing about this program is that it's available for current employees and prospective employees. So that makes it kind of unique. We don't typically see something like that. So if a company has some job seekers that they would like to hire, but they may not have the technical skills that's necessary to do the job, they can sponsor these prospective employees and help them achieve this credential, and with hopes that they will achieve the credential and then be hired by that company.
Okay. Next question. You kind of already answered this, but I want to kind of put it at a point just so the listeners don't get confused, because we're talking about two different programs that kind of sort of do similar stuff in the world of training and whatnot. So how does IARA and the Credential Training Program differ from one another?
The IARA program is a tax credit program, and the Credential Training Program is actually a grant program. So that's the main distinction, I think, between those two.
Yeah, and I think, and we mentioned this before, which I just love this part of it, that it allows us to serve all industries, right, which is great. But again, it's kind of looking at, with the Credential Training Program, what is needed right now? What is that short-term credential that's needed? One thing that's important to point out with the Credential Training Program, it is meant for more short-term, just-in-time type of credentials. So with this program, if the company is awarded the opportunity for it, they will have 12 months from being notified, from us notifying them that they've received it, for that individual to actually obtain that upskill credential. So it's really meant for that short-term credential to help them move forward. So,
any kind of limitations on a business dipping into both of these programs? Can they do that? Is there kind of, you can't do one or the other, can't get more in one or the other?
Yes, certainly we do not want overlap, right, of reimbursing for two different things. But they are distinct in that for the intern as well as for the apprentice program, you're really paying individuals for that work that they're doing on the job. So it's for the intern, as Shelle had mentioned, they have to work 2 consecutive months, 60 hours each month for that intern. where you're really kind of being mentored during that process, during your internship and learning new things. Same thing with apprenticeship. As part of the apprenticeship program, you do have to have a mentor. So they're getting reimbursed for that work on the job versus the credential training program. That could be outside, right? That could be through another means, not necessarily at the company, but they're receiving a credential from that relevant authority to help build them up. So they definitely could participate in both the Intern and Apprentice Recruitment Act as well as the Upskill Credential Training Program. So there's that opportunity there. And it's really reimbursing for two different types of activity. One, again, is credentialing, and one is more that work experience that you're obtaining.
And I would imagine probably similar to IARA, but I'll ask eligibility. What can applicants, expect, form-wise and all of that?
So with the Credential Training Program, there are 4 different application periods. Each quarter, there will be an open application period. Companies basically would need to complete the application in Submittable. And Submittable is the platform we're using for both of these new programs. It's free to the applicant. They would just need to sign up and create an account with Submittable. In Submittable, they're able to upload documents. They're able to communicate with us. There's a message board where they can communicate. We can communicate back and forth. So it's a really simple process as far as the application process goes. But they would complete the application. They would need to provide proof of E-Verify, same thing as with the IARA program. And they would have to be in good standing with the Missouri Secretary of State's office. I think that's it.
Okay. So kind of combining some questions for both of these, because I think it works. What led to the creation of these programs? Were you guys getting feedback from businesses or sectors saying, hey, we have gaps in our training and whatnot. Can we do something here? What was kind of the kickoff to make these 2 programs happen?
I don't necessarily think I can speak to the bill creators' ideas, but I can give you what I think. Missouri is ranked nationally when it comes to apprenticeship programs. We've really seen success in it. We've seen the benefit of retention and really being able to mentor someone through a program that is established, that shows a pathway. So having that opportunity to increase the number of apprentice and interns that a company has just really helps solidify and build our workforce. The Upskill Credential Training Fund, that credential training program that was developed from there is a program in Ohio Tech Cred, I think is the name of that program, that this was kind of mirrored after. But again, it's really looking at how can we assist employers to continue to invest in their workforce, and as they continue to grow for our economy and they invest in our state, so how can we continue to grow that workforce? And there are many great opportunities within our state for individuals to work at, and we want to retain them here in our state with some great jobs and giving them that opportunity to get the credential, maybe participate in an apprenticeship program, give them that pathway and those things that they can take with them to any job here in the state of Missouri and continue to grow. I think that if I was to make my assumptions, some of the reasons behind these 2 programs coming forward.
And the way that these programs were written, it does allow for very small companies to participate as well. So it's not just that your larger employers in the state of Missouri that can take advantage. Small, medium, and large employers are welcome to apply.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Shelle. Specifically with the Upskill Credential Training Program, it really puts priority into those companies with really 1 to 200 employees. It sets aside a percentage. A third of the funds is set aside that we receive for companies with 1 to 50 employees. Another third is set aside for companies with 51 to 200 employees. Really looking at those companies and what we can do to assist them to continue to grow and to have that skill set. And that last third is really companies of any size. So those small employers, as Shelle had mentioned, kind of keeping the eye to that. And how can you help some of those smaller companies continue to train and upskill with it not necessarily being a full burden? They're getting the reimbursement, but, I think it raises the tide for everyone.
So I think you kind of already touched on this a little bit, but why is it important that we continue to have programs like this?
So as we look at all the programs that we have, what we don't want individuals to necessarily think is that we're just giving money, away. even with our training program, for every dollar that we invest, the company has to show us that they have 5 times that in capital investment. So they're growing, they're excelling. So with these 2 programs, we are also requesting, as Shelle said, a portion of that is what's the potential wage increase for that individual once they obtain this credential? What does that look like? So we're trying to keep an eye on, making sure that wages that they are going to increase again, help that individual. We also, as a requirement, they must pay at least minimum wage in order to even qualify. So there are certain benchmarks that we're looking at before we even make an award to make sure that, yes, they meet this criteria. This is going to, again, help increase not only hopefully for our state, our economy, and our business to grow, but also the wealth of the individuals and as they increase their credentials that they also have.
And then just kind of piggybacking off of that, how do these programs help grow the economy?
So I feel that they help grow the economy by making that investment in individuals as well as in companies, right? So we want to support our companies and support what they're doing and helping them grow. In Department of Economic Development, we have a variety of tools that we do to help grow our economy. That's what we're here for, and to attract those companies to our state. And when companies see that all the great things that we have going on with our workforce, all the opportunities that we have, workforce is one of the key things a company looks at when they're looking to move to the state. And us showing that we support that, we want you to come to our state, we want you to grow, and we're going to make an investment back to assist in helping you train and upskill the employees that you have, making sure that you're staying competitive within your own industry and that you can continue to grow, because that helps grow everything.
These training programs can assist companies to offset training costs, which can be really expensive at times, and it makes the company more productive, more efficient. In return, then the company can invest more into their employees, and who then, spend their paychecks in our communities. And so it's kind of a circle that really helps support the economy of our state.
I think it's also important to understand that we don't pay for everything. We pay for a portion,
Right.
So there's that investment from both the company into not only their employees, but the cost of the credential or the time for mentorship of that apprentice, the time for the intern to grow. So there's an investment that the company makes not only to the economy, but to their workforce as well. So we're not designed, and nor would we be, to cover 100% of anything. But really our goal is to assist in ways that we can to allow them to maybe shift some of that cost to something else that they would normally otherwise pay for. But then it helps them grow.
This might be kind of semi-personal question to both of you guys. You both been with Missouri One Start for a while. You'd said previously Missouri One Start's kind of been catered to, certain sectors and whatnot. This kind of opens it up. When these kind of programs come under your guys' umbrella, being director or deputy director, how does that make you guys feel about what you can give back to Missouri? Like, hey, we now have better opportunity to do what we do and do it better.
We were very excited to get these programs for many reasons, but as Kristie mentioned, the fact that we can serve now healthcare. That's statutorily one industry that we often weren't able to assist those companies with training. We were really excited. We are a small team. Missouri One Start's a small team, but very mighty, and we have some of the most passionate people out there, I think, that help run these programs. We really enjoy what we do, enjoy working with the companies and seeing them thrive, and in turn seeing their employees thrive.
So we had this past week celebrated our 5th year of being branded as Missouri One Start. And through those 5 years, we have grown, not to brag, but within the 5 years, we went from not being ranked at all to being ranked within 2 years, being ranked 5th in the nation for customized training. And we've been able to retain that, being ranked 5th. So from not being known to being ranked 5th is pretty great, but that comes from our growth that we've had. We've streamlined processes. Our training programs have been around for a long time. Since 1987, we've been working with companies around the state. We've built trust. We've built rapport. And we take a lot of pride in where we've come from. And as we continue to grow, I'll be honest, we were very excited, a little nervous too, because we have a very high standard that we set for ourselves and our teams, and our companies know that. So we are trying very hard out of the gate with these 2 programs to make sure we're meeting those expectations. And there's a learning curve there, and there's opportunity for us to learn. We're excited, as Shelle said, to serve all industries. We've opened up to new ideas, new things that we've never experienced before. And I think that's a real benefit to us. It gives us something to, again, as we attract companies in, or as our companies locally continue to grow and thrive, it just gives us another tool to assist them. And seeing that happen is very rewarding, I know, for myself. And so I'm excited to see how we continue to grow, and I'm excited to be back here maybe in a year and I can talk more about that. But it's just been a really exciting time for us to grow and to add these 2 new programs.
And I'm sure you guys get feedback from businesses and industry sectors, and they probably don't, maybe they know or maybe they don't know that these 2 programs are coming. But given the feedback that you guys get from companies, how do you think they'll feel about these 2 programs filling the needs that they may have?
I might sway a little bit from the answer here, Shelle, so bring me back. Because we've been operating our training programs for so long, an initial concern that we have was there would be confusion. There'd be confusion on the Credential Training Program being confused with, for example, our customized training program, and not necessarily understanding that they're 2 different things. That's going to be something that we're going to have to educate on with companies, that we still have our other programs there. This is just an additional tool, 2 additional tools in our toolbox to help. For our programs like our Credential Training Program, one of the criteria is that you cannot be seeking a similar credential in our other training programs, as well as Fast Track, which is not one of our programs. That's through the Department of Higher Education. But you cannot be seeking a similar credential within the Fast Track or Missouri One Start training programs. But that doesn't mean that you can't participate in those. There could be other trainings that you're getting, but the credential itself cannot overlap. We can't double dip. And I think most people understand that. But I think that's one of the things that, as we move forward, we're trying to be very conscious of. In statute, the Credential Training Program is called the Upskill Credential Training Program, and we're shortening that to just the Credential Training Program. And one of the reasons being is we've often referred to our customized training program as the opportunity to upskill and train your new and existing employees. And that can be confusing. So we're trying to figure out how to make it less confusing. So we've changed from the statute still is that, but we're calling the program itself the Credential Training Program for that reason alone.
And we really, we depend on our regional engagement division here at DED to help get the word out and try to make sense of all these different programs, as they go out and meet with companies in their local areas and in their region. And they do a fantastic job of promoting our programs and helping companies determine which programs are the best fit for them for their particular needs. And so, like Kristie said, these 2 new programs are 2 more tools in our toolbox, and we're excited to help companies, make the best of their workforce as they can.
All righty. If anyone takes away anything from all this, just know you can't be George Costanza. You can't double dip to Chip on any of these things. Good to know. Anything of IARA, of the Credential Training Program, or just Missouri One Start in general that you guys want to cover that we didn't, that you think listeners might want to know?
On our MissouriOneStart.com website, you're able to find all of our programs that we offer through Missouri One Start. If you go to our homepage, you'll see our 3-legged stool. You'll see our recruitment assistance, our training programs, and then under upskill, you'll see these 2 programs, the Intern Apprentice Recruitment Act and the Credential Training Program. I would encourage individuals to go to that site. There's also an opportunity, if they have questions, they could click on the site. If they scroll to the bottom, they're able to submit in any questions, and we get back with them right away. We, as Shelle mentioned, we are a very small team, but we're mighty. We try to get back to our customers as soon as possible and try to give them that real voice on the other end of the line to answer any questions that they might have or answer directly back to their email and a follow-up with a phone call if needed. So we very much keep top of mind our customer with knowing that there's a lot of questions out there. So we try to keep that top of mind and really try to do the best we can to serve our Missouri constituents.
One final question. I knew you thought I was going to let you go. I don't think we talked about it. What are the time frames on these programs? Are they live now? Can people start applying, or when do they open if they're not live yet?
So the IARA program the application is currently open. It opened July 1st of this year, 2024. And that application will be live until November 15th of 2024. The Credential Training Program opens October 1st. And it runs until October 31st. If folks are considering the Credential Training Program, they've got about a month, before that actually becomes live. But all of that information is on our website, and you can see, those timelines and deadlines for both programs on the website.
All righty. I don't have any other questions for you guys. This is really the outro now. One last open door question, like anything we missed that you want to cover before we wrap up?
No, I think we got it all. I just appreciate the opportunity to talk about these two programs and talk about Missouri One Start and all that we're doing. And I would just encourage individuals, if they have questions, again, go to our website, MissouriOneStart.com. If they have any questions or to reach out to us individually, we'll be glad to answer any questions that they have. Or if they want us to come speak to a group, we're happy to do that as well.
All right. Kristie, Shelle, thank you guys for coming on and giving us all this great info. Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside Eco Devo. We have great episodes coming your way every 2 weeks, so be sure to subscribe. Also, we want to hear from you, our listeners. Tell us what economic development topics you want to hear more about. This helps us fulfill our motto of helping Missourians prosper by bringing content to our listeners that they want to hear. Leave a comment on an episode or send an email to ded.communications@ded.mo.gov and stay tuned for more Inside Eco Devo.